Cross your hands, fingers into fingers. Cross your legs. Gently close your eyes. Just become one with your breath. Your natural, normal, soft, tender, and tranquil breath. Have no thoughts whatsoever. Let us all make a journey towards ourselves. Let us all realize our true self. Just become one with your breath, friends. Dive deep into yourself. This music works just like a reminder to go deep within. Out of all the journey towards the self is a beautiful journey. Last 2 minutes, friends. Slowly bring back your awareness to your physical body. In this last 2 minutes, let's hold a lot of gratitude to each and every person, to each and every situation, to each and every living and non living thing, to the masters, visible or invisible, to the books that we have read, to all the animal friends, and to also ourselves. Just last 30 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Now slowly place your both hands over your eyes for a few seconds. And whenever you're ready, you may open your eyes and take off your hands. Come back, friends. I hope you all had a peaceful meditation. Before we get into the book sharing session, if there is anything that you would like to share, please unmute yourself and you can share your experience. Yes, Sahar. Go ahead, Sahar. Sahar, we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, Sahar.
Sorry. After this deep meditation, I forgot the mic away from me.
Wow. Mm,
uh, Actually, when we started the friction with your singing bowls, especially the crystal one,
mm,
it went very deep or high. I don't know, but
mm,
again, I found my head falling in my chest for a long while,
mm.
and I didn't want it to stop actually.
Wow. Mm,
So I will listen to the recording on YouTube again and again today
wow.
or tonight. I mean.
Mm,
It was amazing. And actually, I was using the pyramid the 3G's pyramid,
wow.
which is
Very good.
amazing. Mansoor just gave it to me 2 days ago in Faluka Day.
Beautiful. Ah, nice.
And I did the modification to it, which is a rubber, a copper coil with a
Yes.
crystal on the
Wow.
top with your
Wow.
music. And I was telling Nilima 2 days ago about it.
Mm.
Uh, Makes real difference.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
I know that we don't need any external equipment, but it all worked together in harmony to create
Right.
this state. So thank you so much for playing live today again.
Thank you. Thank you, Sahar. Thank you. That
You,
was really nice. Yes, we need to take help. There is nothing wrong in it. And it is indeed a beautiful, it will be very beautiful experience if we use all the tools available. Like our breath is a tool, like pyramids are the tools, and the crystals are the tools. So we have to use them. And
yes,
thank you for
yes.
sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else, friends?
Hi, Madhu.
Hi, Meena.
Yeah, today was a bit emotional meditation for me. It was deep,
Mm.
but I was in tears.
Mm.
It's like a roller coaster.
Mm.
And I was able to, no, I'm getting all the thoughts about all the incidents where I have held all the emotions.
Mm.
It was a bit deep, and I mean, my eyes are wet.
Mm. It's very normal, Meena, because when we go deep into meditation, there's so many hidden emotions in us. Like we don't realize that we have all those kind of emotions in us. So when we go deep within, we will see face all those emotions and we clear them off, which is
True.
not bringing any good to us.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it will stagnate and we will suffocate in the later periods of time. It's good that you have confronted, you have watched that these emotions are there in you and you let go of them through tears. That's a very cleansing process.
Thank you.
Thank you, Meena, for sharing. Yes. Anybody else, friends? All right. So this is one of my favorite books, The Untold Story of Sita, that which we are going to journey to today, from today to that times of Mata Sita and Swami Rama. And what you have to do is just close your eyes and dive into those times, friends. It's very beautiful experience that you will have while you become aware and listen to it. Feel it. It's more of a feeling. It's more of a it's a heart story. It's a heart book, heart connected book. So just close your eyes. Before I get into the story, I would like to read a preface and a little bit about the author. So it is somewhere between dark and daylight, at the hour when the mind is stillest, when dreams submerge into the ocean of mind. But before the mind becomes aware of the outer world, before the stars retreat and the sun sends the harbingers of its ascent, before the birds begin to stir, but after the night creatures have gone to rest, it is at that time that the inner world lights up our vision, and we can see things we normally do not see and hear what our human ears cannot usually hear. It was during such a time that the inner world opened to me, and I saw a great light, unlike anything the human eye can perceive. This light shone over a most beautiful world where there were many couples enjoying each other's presence, revealing in love and tenderness. A great love pervaded the whole scene, and my heart filled to overflowing with joy. The love others were experiencing was also my love. I thought, this is the love that Sri Ram and Mata Sita brought to earth. It was to awaken this love that they came, this love that belonged to all, as it flows freely through everyone and everything. At first, there was just love, and then I saw the light, assumed a beautiful greenish color, and became aware of the formless presence of Sri Ram, pervading all. As I wondered at the intensity and immensity of the love I felt, I heard the words, "This is the love Sri Ram brought to earth." He awakened a new quality of love. I understood that he and Mata Sita came to unlock the love that is encoded in all creation, so humanity could advance in its evolution and fulfill its potential. The voice I heard from deep within was neither masculine nor feminine. It was a voice I recognized as I had heard it before during such states of absorption. I dwelt in this ecstatic awareness for some time. Gradually, my eyes opened, and I became conscious of the outer world. The light faded away, as did the scene before me. My consciousness withdrew from the inner world and opened to the outer one. For all of my adult life, I have been a devotee of Sri Ram and Mata Sita. But it was not until I started writing this book that I came to feel a personal relationship with them. They became very real living guides for me. I found myself basking in their presence, seeing them behind closed eyes, listening and reflecting deeply on the words I was hearing and recording, talking to them and trying to understand with my intellect what was being revealed in my heart. Sita's story carries the memory of a world lush with divine forces that appeared in various forms through rivers and forests, wind and solar rays. Often my mind would be doubtful and question where these stories were coming from. Were they my memories or someone else? Was my mind creating narratives through its imaginative powers? But my heart would respond, "Wish and listen, for Mata Sita is speaking to you." Many ages ago in ancient China, ancient India, Sri Ram came to establish the foundation for a society based on universal principles of righteous action in harmony with the universal laws known as dharma. What is at the heart of this dharma? Love. Love is what keeps the universal laws in motion. Love is what holds the magnetic and gravitational fields together. It is the force of love that is the cause and mover of all manifestation, which will eventually transform back into the unmanifest ultimate reality. It is this love that Sri Ram and Mata Sita displayed for each other, for all the people of the kingdom, for the creatures of the forest, for all forest life, for Mother Earth herself, and even for the stars that dwell at such a distance. Together, they exemplified a complete and perfectly balanced human love. They demonstrated the possibility for humanity to realize on earth that rarefied quality of higher, divine love, which is based not on emotion or self interest, not on desire or possessiveness, but on the well being of the whole. Only by awakening the true essence of Dharma, the love that is imprinted in our nature, will we be able to realize the higher possibilities that await human life. In 2015 and 2016, I went on two pilgrimages, which are described in the commentary section of this book. It was after those pilgrimages that during many, many months, as I sat in my daily meditation, memories began to stir and images arise, conversations heard. I was engulfed in these visions of the past and could not but record them as precious messages were conveyed. The experience of writing these stories has left an indelible impression on me, for this process had brought me into the living presence of Mata Sita and Sri Ram. My greatest hope and aspiration in sharing these stories is that it will do the same for you. Jai Sri Ram, Jai Sita Ma. It's written by Dana Marie and friends, and today I'm going to read the first part, Childhood in Mithila. I was born in the ancient kingdom of Videha, also known as Mithila, into a poor Brahmin priestly caste family. Misfortune had come to my family several generations earlier, and we had been taken in as servants by the Janak family. My father served in the household of Maharaja, which means king, Rama Janak, and later under the renewed Siradvaja Janak. His father and grandfather had also served in the household, and so by the time my father came along, our family had gained a well respected place in the palace and was greatly valued by the other attendants and servants. My father's body and mind were wholly devoted to the Maharaja and his family, and this was the understanding of our role in life that was conveyed to me from early childhood. There was no task too lowly for my father if it is in any way would serve the needs of the Maharaja. I don't remember my mother. She died when I was young, and so my family consisted of my father and me. Although a number of the servants took turns caring for me when I was young, most often I accompanied my father when he performed his various chores as he loathed to let me out of his sight. When I was a child, the responsibility for the kingdom's governance passed from father to son when Siradhwaj Janak became the ruler. He was revered by all the people, even beyond the normal feelings of devotion and obedience to a Maharaja. It is an understatement to say that my father has the highest regard for the new Maharaja. For those of us in the household, Janak Baba, which is father, as we called him, was more like a father to all of us, young and old alike. Even at his young age in the kingdom, he was considered not only the Maharaja but a rishi, a great sage. Few Maharajas could match his stature. My father was not alone in believing this. I was told by my father from an early age that the Maharaja did not distinguish between people's stations in life because he saw the interior of a person, not the outer form. He saw into a person's heart. This was a well known fact, and it was a quality that elevated him in the people's mind even more. There was a mutual love relationship between the Maharaja and the people, and thus the kingdom enjoyed an unusual sense of harmony and peace. Opposition to him was unheard of, and there was no questioning his deeds, which were always for the good of the people. The palace where I grew up and served was beautiful, but had little display of excessive wealth or grandeur. Simplicity and beauty existed side by side. The palace was decorated with the artistry of the people, painted vases and other pottery, murals, and finely woven cloths. The Maharani, Queen, Sunaina, had a keen sense of beauty, and she helped to create a refined and elevated atmosphere, not only in the palace, but also in all of Midila. The Maharaja and Maharani had no children. It was said that this was because of the aesthetic nature of Janak Baba. Much of his time was spent visiting the rishis and sages or hosting them at the palace or in a meditative seclusion. They came from far and wide to visit the only they called the Rishi Maharaja, and the blessings these visits brought created much activity and joy in the kingdom. All of the people benefited from the wisdom of the Maharaja, as he would help solve the problem of any person, and thus he became our nearest and dearest Baba. It was a happy environment for most people, except my father, who had a dour and brooding temperament, despite the blessing he received from being near to the Maharaja. To say my father was strict would be too mild a description. A perfectionist when it came to performing his duties for the Maharaja. He often would redo the task of the other servants and attendants because he said those tasks could be done better. But he always did so humbly, too humbly, I often thought. One can always do better, was a refrain I often heard him repeat, and I would silently protest. Is it always possible to do better? My father never failed to remind me that our family survived the many misfortunes that had visited us through the kindness of the Janak family. We owe our lives to them, he repeatedly told me. Without their kindness, I don't know what would have happened to us. As I grew older, I began to inquire of my father what those misfortunes were and why they had come to us, but he never answered. He only gazed out into space with a blank stare and shook his head. Once he replied, "It is not for you to know." And so I left it that way, not satisfied, but too timid to press him. I didn't accept that he would never let me go far from him, that I could never accompany the other children on the rare occasion of an outing to the forest. This brought me many tears and much protest, but he was adamant. Worst of all, I could never go down to the river, as bathing in the river was off limits to me. I seemed to be the only one who had this restriction, but my father was insistent, and no amount of pleading could move him. During the day, up until the age of about 8 or 9, when I received my own chores to perform, I would accompany my father as he oversaw the various activities needed to keep the household functioning smoothly. In the evening before my father retired, he would seek the blessings of Janak Baba. Sometimes I would be allowed to tag along, standing shyly by the doorway as my father rested his forehead on the feet of the great sage. I remember gazing at the two of them, the stately figure of Janak Baba, with his tall frame, his dark hair pulled back, and a flowing beard, spotted with grey even at a young age. He seemed to bear an elder's wisdom from young adulthood. His figure was slender, as he did not take in much food. The features of his face were finely chiseled, with a straight nose and full lips that were overshadowed by his beard. His face was kindly and calm. My father had a very different appearance. Although he was also tall, he always stooped with bent shoulders so as to appear of shorter stature than his Maharaja. He was exceptionally thin, as he ate even less than Janak Baba, and his face always wore a stern expression, which always only softened when in the presence of the Maharaja. When I had the occasion to accompany my father on the night time ritual, I would always hear the Maharaja say in a gentle voice, "Rest well, Dushyanta. May you have a peaceful sleep." No matter the hour, my father would perform this ritual, as he knew that the Maharaja slept little and would receive him. My father would be unable to sleep without this blessing. Once I asked him why, and he replied that if he died in the night, he wanted to make sure he had received Janak Baba's blessing. This response brought me no comfort. What would become of me if my father died in that night? Sometimes Janak Baba would leave the palace for weeks on end, visiting one of the sages in the kingdom or retreating into solitude for his own meditations. My father would be anxious at those times, and often he would sit up through the night waiting for Janak Baba's return, as if his life depended on his arrival. I mistook my father's sternness for lack of caring, and so the seed of feeling unloved began to germinate in me. As I grew older, the timidity that I felt in his presence as a child transformed into resentment. Perhaps it was the lack of any motherly qualities in his nature, or perhaps it was the absorption in his work of service. But he seemed to take no notice of the emotional peaks and valleys that accompany a child's development. My feelings seemed inconsequential, and so I learned to keep them to myself. The first explosion between my father and me happened when I was about 12 years old. One of the servants had come to borrow something from my father. Aditi was a kindly middle aged servant who had a liking for me. More than the other servants, she expressed an almost motherly affection for me as a child. When she would perceive an expression of loneliness on my face, she would press me against her well padded chest and whisper words of encouragement. When she came this day and saw me tidying up the room that I shared with my father, she mentioned to him casually that I would someday make a good wife. He replied sharply, Meenakshi will never marry. She appeared shocked by his tone but didn't want to question him and so quietly left the room. Pitaji, which means Papa, exclaimed, Why did you say that? Because it is true, he replied in a stern and determined voice. Am I so unattractive that nobody will marry me? I asked in a hurt tone. I did not think myself ugly, but I also did not think myself beautiful. In fact, I had never thought much about my outer appearance. But I was coming of age, growing into womanhood, and for the first time I became conscious of my appearance, questioning whether I was indeed unattractive. I was of middle stature, neither tall nor short, on the thin side, with a somewhat darkish complexion, but not unusually so. My hair was too thin and did not make a luscious braid as it twisted down my back. But how could that matter? The only unattractive thing about me was a mole on my lower right cheek. But again, I didn't see how that mattered. We were taught in Mithila to focus on inner, not on outer beauty, on our character. So, how could my appearance affect my ability to marry? My father's face softened just a bit. Your appearance is fine, Meenakshi. It has nothing to do with that. I am determined that you should not marry because if you do, some great misfortune will befall you, as has befallen me. Why do you keep saying that? I began to cry. For my whole life, I have heard you talk about misfortune. What misfortune, Pitaji? Why can't we be happy like everyone else? Why are we less fortunate than they? Why, Pitaji, why? The tears were flowing profusely. Never had I shown such emotion to my father, but the thought that he was blocking what might be my only road to happiness was too much to bear. My father didn't answer. He stared straight ahead into the air. Finally, he said, There are things we cannot change, child. Neither you nor I can change what has been done in the past. Even Janak Baba cannot change it. But he has taught me patience and sacrifice and forbearance. This is what I wish for you. You must learn to accept what has been given to you in life. If you perform your duties diligently, you will find contentment, as I have. His words did not satisfy me, and my tears increased. Rather than taking me in his arms and soothing me, my father replied, You must accept what I have told you and not think of marrying in this life. It is for your own good to spare your much misfortune. With those words, he left the room, and I sank into despair. After that, great distance crept between us, and fewer words were spoken. Despite my own troubles with my father, I could see that he was a model servant, respected by the others in the household. And I did try to follow his behavior, speaking modestly and respectfully to all, no matter their position in the household, never contradicting, never placing demands, putting my own needs, desires, and feelings aside for the good of the household. It was a difficult but valuable training. Whenever my father saw me seeking something for myself or expressing dissatisfaction, one look from him would squash whatever was arising in my mind or heart. Gratitude was a quality much valued in the household, and this was said by Janak Baba and his wife Sunaina Ma. They never failed to express gratitude to their servants and attendants and did their best to make life easier for us. It was our understanding that each person fulfilled an essential function in the household that was as important as any other role. No work was demeaning, and no one was treated as being worth more or less than the others. But as a young girl, I did not fully understand this concept. and had a feeling that my father, after his long and hard service, was more deserving than the others. Whenever any indication of this feeling emerged, my father was quick to respond. One day he said to me, Meenakshi, you must find contentment in what has been given to you in life. We are very fortunate to be able to serve Janak Baba. I have such gratitude for this, and I pray that you do as well. I nodded. I know, Pitaji, you have taught me this. I will find happiness in serving. I do not speak of happiness, Meenakshi, only contentment. It is contentment that I wish for you. Again I nodded. I could not say that I shared his feelings for Janak Baba, although I very much wanted to. Janak Baba was too distant a figure for me. I had great respect and reverence for him, but felt very shy in his presence, and so never came in close proximity, never looked directly at him, never spoke to him. When I observed him from a distance, I could sense the joy that bubbled out of him. I could see the love that everyone held for him. His smile, his laugh lit up the whole palace. Why could Pitaji not have this joy? Why couldn't I? As I grew older, I began to appreciate the respect the other servants showed for my father and to feel a bit of pride in my father's honored position in the household. He supervised the other servants and made sure the household functioned smoothly, with no chore left undone. If any servants took sick or for some reason could not perform their duties, my father would immediately take over. No task was too menial or lowly for him. This bothered me, as I thought he often took on chores that were beneath his station, but for the most part I kept quiet. One day, when I was about 15, I came upon my father scrubbing the floor of the entry to the palace. Despite his age, he was on his hands and knees, oblivious to all else. His health was not the best. I could hear his heavy breathing and grew alarmed. Pitaji, what are you doing on your hands and knees? I whispered as I bent down beside him. This is not right. He turned his gaze to me and didn't respond. When I questioned him again in a more urgent tone, he ordered me to go to our room and wait for him there. I hurried back to the small room we inhabited behind the palace, my chest heaving, disturbed by his tone, knowing I had stirred his displeasure. Instinctively, I knew he would be angry about my questioning him. On the way, I met Aditi, that servant. She caught me by the arm and, when she saw the expression on my face, asked what was wrong. Pitaji is on his hands and knees washing the floor to the entry, I blurted out. I see in his face the strain it is causing him. But he won't listen to me. Is there no one else to scrub the floor? She shook her head slowly in disapproval. The woman responsible for this chore left the household this morning, and we were all busy preparing for the Maharaja's guest who had soon to arrive. But he should not have done this. He could have asked any of us, don't bother about it, Meenakshi. Don't question your father now. He is so determined that the palace look its very best for the guest. When my father returned to our room later that day, I could see by the flushed look on his face and the heaving of his breath that he was not well. But I did not say anything. I looked away, pretending to be busy. When he spoke to me, I answered in monosyllables. Look at me when I speak to you, Meenakshi. His tone was harsh. I turned to face him, my eyes brimming with tears. What is this resistance I sense in you? I didn't answer. When he persisted, I blurted out, Pitaji, what will the others think to see you on the floor like that? But as soon as the words were out of my mouth, I regretted them. If I ever wanted to withdraw words spoken, this was the moment. What others think. Is this your concern? Is this what I have taught you? Is there any task to be ashamed of when we are preparing the palace for Janak Baba's guest? His voice betrayed his disapproval of me. I am surprised at you, my child. I should have known to stop there, but I didn't. But Pitaji, I protested, I can see the strain it is causing you. Surely one of the younger servants. He cut me off. Yes, there is a young servant, and I will see that she takes up the task. Little did I know that this young servant was to be me. What has gotten into you, Meenakshi? I didn't answer. I knew that I was wrong, yet I couldn't help but feel the Pitaji had humiliated both himself and me. Finally, I said, in a small voice, we are Brahmins, are we not, Pitaji? This is all for today, friends. I hope you enjoyed this part, and we will continue reading tomorrow. And so far, I have read the story of Dina Mariam. This is Dina Mariam's past, which she had remembered in that times of Mata Sita and Sri Ram. So, till we see each other tomorrow, have a lovely night, a lovely evening, and a lovely day, friends. Namaste.
Namaste. Thanks, Madhu.
Thank you, Archana ji.
Thank you, Madhu. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you, Sahar.